So cute. Don't! God!
Very good, Captain Robin.
Chris from Cave 5 Factory, how are you doing?
Hey Greg, thanks. I'm doing good. How are you?
Very good, thank you. So tell me about your game Labyrinth, and if you could, tell me about the origin of its name.
Yeah, sure. So the full name is Labyrinth de Lux, a Crusoe Quest. And
Okay.
so the story is loosely based on Robinson Crusoe. I'm sure everybody's familiar with the storyline. And
Sure.
we've taken some parts of it and made a fun VR puzzle game with the story.
Very nice, yeah. So take me to the very beginning. Actually, let's talk about the kind of game that it is real quick. So obviously it's a VR game. When I was a kid, there was a game that I liked a lot in DOS. It was like 1982, 83, something like that. And it was just a laser with a series of mirrors, and you try to get to a specific point. And I don't know if that is if that's called a laser maze game or whatever, but I did a little research and was reminded of other games that served that same purpose. So was that the origin, or did you want to start with like the storyline first and you figured out what kind of game you wanted to make?
So one of the earliest inspirations was actually the movie The Cube, which is a horror movie.
Okay.
And,
I love that. I love that
for the setting.
Yeah, sure.
And but then obviously, yes, as you mentioned, those games with the lasers and the mirrors. There's a few of these also like recent games, and we definitely reference those as well.
Yeah, very cool. So I picked up the game. I got it for both the Quest and for the PC. So do you have a preferred system to play it on?
I do prefer the Quest just because I don't have a wireless VR setup otherwise. So that's definitely a plus, with this game, especially like you definitely need to move around and like look above and behind you. So that's
100%.
recommended.
100%. Yep. When a player's playing the game, what would they expect?
So you're basically going to be what we like to call a space trucker. So imagine you're a truck driver, but instead of a regular truck, you're in space.
Okay.
And you end up in like a bit of a time warp or like a rift in space-time. And you wake up in a very alien environment, but you have a little sidekick that helps you throughout the game. So basically you need to solve these laser puzzles with not just on 2 dimensions. Obviously we're talking about 3 dimensions, and you'll end up on the ceiling of rooms, on the walls, and just all over trying to solve these riddles.
Yeah. And the name of the character is Captain Robin. I'm assuming she's based after Robinson Crusoe.
That's correct. And the sidekick's name is Friday, just like in those stories.
Yeah, it was perfect. And I like how they kind of bicker with each other back and forth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a story that goes along with it that's being told through a series of like tablets or tableaus.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about that.
Yeah, so we basically wanted the game to be very approachable and to not have like any unskippable cutscenes. So what we did was we just skipped them by default, basically. You end up in a level, you get a bit of story, just enough to get you going. And then if you're interested in the storyline, which hopefully you are, then you'll find these very obviously placed big fillers, and you can just scan them and you get more of the backstory.
Sure.
Yeah.
So Friday, you can either just listen to Friday, or you can also see Friday on like your wrist computer.
Mm-hmm.
So something I liked about the wrist computer was that if you turn it a certain way, it was like a map, like an X-ray type map.
Yeah.
What was the inspiration for that?
Yeah, so this is actually one feature that originally was intended to be an Easter egg, but it made its way into the final game as even though like a story beat. I believe it's in the 4th room where Friday is like, hey, I can scan this stuff and help you solve the levels. Basically, the idea is these are vast environments. Like you could spend like half an hour in a single room.
You certainly can, and I did.
All right, and but we wanted to give you one more way to like keep your grasp on like orienting yourself, because you go to the next wall, you go to the ceiling, you might be disoriented, and just keeping basically a big green symbol on the exit, that's like immediately or you've got like a reference.
Sure.
That's-
And you
that's
know
a
what?
cool-
That disorientation was in part, I think, kind of the fun of it.
Mhm.
You definitely in their first few levels have some difficulty orienting yourself because just first of all, you don't know what you're doing because you're playing the game for the first time. But I definitely got to that point where I knew how to, say, okay, that's over there. So when I go to this wall, I should now expect it to be over there because I'm turned this way.
Mhm.
And once I got a swing of that, it was about a third or halfway through the game and really felt like I understood it. It was much easier. So I really like the ability to solve a puzzle differently every single time. And I will often with a maze start at the end and then come forward and then try to find the connection from the end to the beginning.
Mhm.
And what I found is because it's a laser maze game, you have lasers and you have mirrors, that you guys put in some extra mirrors that didn't necessarily need to be needed.
Yeah,
And
you got us.
yeah. And I kind of hate you for that. But I also like that there's a level of difficulty and there's a rating at the end. So tell me, how does someone achieve like the 3-star rating when the door opens?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. So basically, we have two main criteria. So the first one is time. If you solve it a little faster, you're going to get more stars. And then also the number of mirrors you've used. So in some of the levels, there's multiple ways to the end, and actually most of them. And if you could take the longer path, maybe the first time you might not get all of the stars.
Sure.
And then, but there's usually a very quick way of solving it. So with both in terms of time and mirrors. But
Gotcha.
the walls and the regular mirrors, I believe they count the same. So yeah, you just use either of those.
Well, you know what I like the most is when you get to a point where you start to split out the colors of light and they go different
Oh, yeah.
directions. I found that very interesting. And one of my favorite things that I liked was standing in a hallway that had just laser beams shooting everywhere. It's a very fun, kind of like being like in like a sci-fi haunted house, narrow hallways, but lots of laser beams everywhere.
Okay, cool. Yeah, actually, it reminds me of during development, one of my colleagues did the laser physics and also the rendering. So one of the tests for the performance was to turn all of the walls into mirrors.
Oh no.
So literally, no matter where you pointed the laser, it was just like a light show.
Yeah, is he blind now? Well, I like that you could clearly see in the design that someone was saying, oh, I can see that you can maybe sneak a laser through this hole. So they're going to put it like a brick, like right there. And, it's in that moment, I'm kind of appreciating that, I feel like I'm face to face with the level designer for just a moment.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I'm not happy with the level designer, but I feel like I understand why they did what they did.
One of the things you can do in the game is you can always re-experience it. So you can choose the previous level and you could even choose the intro. So you could go back to that any time. And I'm mentioning this because there's actually a hidden secret that it seems you haven't discovered. And so just as a general hint, you can walk around the intro and you can look all around you. It's also in the trailer. So the beginning of the trailer of the game takes place in the intro spaceship. So just look around, behind you. There might be something interesting to interact with.
How does someone find your game?
So we are currently on SideQuest VR, and this will link you to the Oculus or Meta App Lab. And also we have the Steam port available on Steam right now.
Great. All right. Well, Chris, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks. This was
All
great.
right.